All right, ready?
We are ready.
Rolling.
When you're pushing all these boulders and it's never enough, and you're looking all over your let me begin again, because this one is a different rhyme scheme than usual.
Actually, wait, hold on one sec. All right, good.
When you're pushing all of these boulders and it's never enough, and you're looking over your shoulder for somebody to punch, but everybody on social show off like show enough. Hold up. Let's get to know stuff over brunch. This is the Brunch Budget podcast with your hosts, Pamela Capalad, a certified financial planner and accredited financial counselor, founder of Brunch Budget, Pockets Change, and Sea Change. She's here to take the bite out of your budget.
And your other host, Dialect, director of pedagogy at Pockets Change and co-founder of Sea Change. He's here to change the way we talk about finance.
Recorded live-ish from Greenhouse Studios deep in the heart of Planet Brooklyn. Brunch and Budget. Brunch and Budget. Oh, we got a brunch and budget. Brunch and Budget now. Hey, that was not too bad. We were practicing the harmonies.
We're grooving. We were. Yes, this was all planned. Hi, everyone. Hello. Welcome to another arc.
You know, they do know that we planned the podcast. Y'all know that, right? We don't just...
No, we're freestyling the whole thing, y'all.
I mean, a little bit, but yes. we planned the best freestyles. You know, anyone on Whose Line Is Anyway would tell you that the best improvs are always planned.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, that's us. Hello. Welcome to another episode of Brunch and Budget
We're here
Season 2.
to yes and with your finances.
Yes, and the show today is... How much is enough? This is a question that we ask a lot of people to ask themselves. And we realize that it's the kind of thing that can be really difficult to answer. I think that when you think about where that question comes from and what enough means to different people, and is it enough income? Is it enough money? Is it enough food? Is it enough shelter?
Well, it's a tough one because enough is an abstract, but it's not like an abstract like a lot of the abstracts, like what is the meaning of life and stuff like that. We're like, it doesn't really matter because you got to get through your day. What is enough is actually really impactful in your day-to-day, and us not examining it makes it so that it's harder for us to deal with the consequences of it. Just to like make the whole thing short. If you don't listen to the rest of the show, it's a good show. Listen to the whole arc. But basically, if you don't decide financially what enough is for you, you're never going to have enough.
Yeah, it'll never feel like enough. And, we're going to talk about this in part 2, but especially our complicators and our paper chasers. If you don't have a concrete idea of what enough looks like at every stage of your finances, you'll never feel safe. You'll never feel like you can stop. You'll never feel like that pile of money in your bank account is going to make you feel secure. It's never going to feel like enough. And so let's talk about that. This is part 1 of how much is enough. And part 1 is where we talk about what you need to know. Mm-hmm. What are the key things that you need to understand about how much is enough? What's the bigger systemic picture around it? And where does the racial wealth divide fit in? So, we got a scenario for you.
Well, it's not our scenario.
Okay, it's not our scenario. It's Inc.com scenario.
Yes, Inc.com.
Let's cite our sources, everybody. Let's cite our sources.
Well, I'm just saying, don't want people
right.
think it's our idea. We didn't come up with this.
No, it's a good one, though. So, here's a scenario. Suppose you're one of 5 people who have been selected by a mysterious philanthropist to participate in a contest.
The 5 of you have comparable debt levels and costs of living, as well as similar middle-class financial situations.
Yep, you're all roughly the same age, equally healthy, have the same number of children, you all live moderately low-risk lifestyle, so you're all in the same demographic.
Privately and one by one, a representative of the donor approaches each one of you with a blank check and a pen and poses the following question.
How much money would you have to be paid right here and now to retire today and never receive another dollar of income from any source for the rest of your life?
And don't take a long time to decide. Like think about it. How much? How much?
Yeah.
What do you,
The catch is that this time, whoever among the 5 players writes the lowest number on the check will be paid that sum, and the other 4 players will get
nothing.
0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0.
Whew, that's tough, right? Because
Yeah.
I was thinking that, like, yeah, you know.
Did you have a number in your head before the catch?
I had a number. I had my usual number.
What's your number?
5 million.
Okay, yeah.
5 million is a number. I've read a bunch of stuff. I think I said this on the show before. Like, I've read a bunch of stuff and gleaned and put together and made my own thing. And if I want, and I also think about my kid.
Mm-hmm.
If I want me and my kid, not even thinking about you or all of the other people, to make sure that no matter what happens, we're okay.
Mm-hmm.
We can take care of ourselves. We can leave. We can arm ourselves. We can help ourselves. We can feed ourselves. That's the number I was thinking.
That's a good number, actually. That's a good number. I could probably, yeah. I think I would agree with you. I don't think it would have been any higher than that for me either. That's interesting. That's interesting. So I'm curious, dialect.
But the whole thing about like the lowest amount, right?
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
You're gonna get it.
If that changes with the catch. Because the other thing, my complicator ass self, I'm like, so can you just put a number and like get the money and then keep working after anyway? Or are they gonna
like secretly
check? Yeah, are they gonna check and be like, hey, you're not allowed to work. I gave you all this money so you didn't have to work.
Get like a pen name and try to write some novels and,
Yeah.
know, hope that you get paid for that.
Because I'm like, let me lowball and then get some money and still work.
Will you never be given gifts or other residual income? Do the royalties stop? I know it's a complicated.
I'm ready. Like I'm trying to be disingenuous about this scenario.
But like just giving it to the abstract numbers and stuff, that makes you think of like, all right, what's the least I could live on?
What's the least you could live on?
Which feels like it doesn't vibe with this whole what is enough thing.
Yeah.
But okay, but to answer the question, least I could live on, I feel like I would say something around like 1 million. Or maybe if I'm really trying to be competitive, we'd be like, I'll say 750,000 because other people are gonna say 1 million. You know, I'm trying to undercut it like it's the Price is Right.
Yeah.
That's what this is a Price is Right scenario.
That's it, yeah. And, you know, the Inc.com article goes on to talk about, like, different ways to figure it out.
So wait, so what's the right answer? Is there a right answer?
No, there's no right answer. That's the whole thing about how much is enough is, like, that's the other side of this, too, I feel like, is if you couldn't work anymore, then you're basically stuck with living off of the least amount that you could come up with.
Word, right? No matter what it is, even if I had said 10 million as my competitive number, that would be because that it's less than I wanted to live on.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, I don't even know if I would want to be one of the 5, if I would want to be the winner of this scenario. Because that's the thing too, is so, you know, the article goes on.
That's some American exceptionalism. You were like, I don't want to take whatever random amount of money is given to me because I'm going to bet on myself because I believe I can just earn more.
Oh, no.
Right? You're like, should I even take this?
I just don't like the restriction. But again, that goes back to my complicator self, right? Of being like, hey, well, maybe instead of trying to figure out the one right number now, I want my options. I want to not be stuck in this box or whatever, right?
So is figuring out what is enough impossible? Because it sounds like we just took this one little quiz here from ink and the ink is spilling all over our brains.
I know, right? So let's back it up because someone actually asked. There was a Forbes article actually. It was really interesting to research this and kind of figure it out because it was a very nebulous. It's a very nebulous question in a lot of ways. It feels very abstract.
You can't just write what is enough into Google. You will be disappointed at the results.
Yeah, exactly. Because the Inc.com article, for instance, had a formula that's very popular in the FIRE movement, which stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early, right? And a lot of the FIRE movement formulas say multiply your annual expenses by 25 times, and that's enough. So if you have $50,000 a year of expenses to live comfortably, then you need to save $1.25 million. Simple, right?
Man, 25 times your expenses, that's what you need to be able to get an apartment in New York City. Talk about like that simple formula, it's going to be all right.
I know, right? And why is it 25 times? Is that like, do you have to invest that money? I have so many questions about that, right? Do you have to invest that money? Is it that you're only going to live for 25 years? Like, what is that?
And is this a status thing? Because, like, when we're talking about, like, it always ends up being, you need to be a millionaire, right? And that's a term. We don't have 100,000-aire. No one calls it that.
Right.
Or, like, 50,000.
Well, and the other thing that I think about is, you know, do you have to have a pile of money, or can part of your what is enough be, like, recurring income or recurring revenue or something like that, you know?
Yeah, I mean, the thing about the money and the money coming in and all of that, it's the difference between industry and fantasy, right? Because the fantasy is, it's like sports. We were just talking about like with the sports thing, and like a lot of things try to be like sports. In sports, you just win, right? You go and you win the championship, and you got the championship. You're done. You can go and try to win it again, but you also don't have to, because no one can take that thing away from you. With money, even if you get a big amount of money, people can take it away from you.
Yeah.
you know, so you're just gonna have it.
Well, that's the other thing, probably in terms of like trying to figure out the answer to this question, is that idea that someone could just take it away from you, right? And you gave up your options. And there's all this pressure when you have that pile of money to do the quote right thing with it, right? And to optimize it and things like that too. So I feel like that when it comes to this question, there's two sides of it, right? There's this concept of like, how much is enough in terms of like, is it too much and how much is enough? And I know a lot of money monks have this thing where it's like, I can get by on the smallest amount possible and figure it out.
Well, and not only I can get by, but I should get by on the smallest amount possible, because me trying to take more makes it harder for other folks. It's like this anti-competitive thing where you're like, well, I'm trying to do no harm, right? So I don't want to step on the bugs or whatever that are in my way. Not that people are bugs. It's like, you know.
No, I know what you mean though. Yeah. No, and so there's a Forbes article actually that posed the question of how much money is enough for you, and they asked people in different countries, and I thought it was really interesting what the results were.
Oh, so Forbes did our job for us.
They did. They did surveys in many countries. They surveyed Argentina, India, Russia, the UK, the United States, of course, and it was really interesting. So in the UK, the average number that people said they needed to lead a comfortable life, that was the question specifically, right? In the UK, most people said $10 million.
Oh, that's like twice what I was saying.
Yeah.
So, okay, that's reasonable. I get it.
And then in countries like Argentina, India, and Russia, they said they would need $1 million or less to lead a more comfortable life.
It's funny that million is still the threshold, right?
It is. It feels like that's the number. I mean, even when you were saying about the concept of like millionaire, you know, and saying like, I'm a 500,000-aire. You're not bragging about that.
Yeah, no, it feels like you've unlocked something. That, like, again, you can't take that away from you, that like, I've been a millionaire.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It's like the 6 figures. But the other interesting thing is, do you want to guess how much people said would be enough in the United States?
Oh man, in the United States, oh man,
because the UK was 10 million, right?
Willie, what do you think in the United States? What is how much do you think that USians would want?
USians.
How much is enough? Yeah, how much would Americans say is enough?
My number I was thinking was way higher than the numbers y'all were thinking, so I already lost this contest.
Oh, what is it?
Well, I'm thinking, you know, for the family to never get any more money, I was more in the 100 million range, but maybe I'm just bougie.
You are indeed not bougie. You are
the average American.
Average American said $100 million.
$100 million.
Well, also, I'm a New Yorker.
Yes.
Right? So if I'm gonna have that money, I had to be able to afford a place. I want to own something. So in this city, that's $1 million right there. Easy. Okay. Just to own.
Yeah, no,
a 3-bedroom apartment.
It can't just be $1 million.
Right? Like $1 million is gone just to have a house. So.
Wow. You know what I would love to, maybe we need to spend an episode talking about like what $100 million really means. Because I have worked with clients who have $20 million, $50 million, $100 million, $400 million, right? And the amount of time and energy that it also takes to manage that amount of money is really like a different level.
Well, I think it's the thing I was saying earlier, though, about the winning thing, right?
Yeah.
About like you feeling like you've won, because $1 million, again, they can take it easily.
They can take that away, right?
Gone. That's a house. You're
even
right.
$5 million.
But $100 million, that's like, I can't mess that up.
Unassailable.
That's right.
You can't mess it up. You can make every mistake in the world and you'll still have money. Right? It's like the absolute total security.
Remember the Donald Trump stuff when he was even trying to get elected? People were doing the math on if he was a good businessman, and they were doing like his stuff that he did versus just putting it in just like in the stock market, you know, with like a regular, not fancy portfolio. And it was like, either way, no matter what, it was going to be fine.
Right, exactly.
He invests in some businesses that don't work out. He throws in the stock market. He had a lot. It was a lot. So, it's never going to really go away.
And I will tell you that people who had $4 or $5 million still felt like that their finances were precarious at that level because of, and we re-aired this episode a couple weeks ago, lifestyle creep, right?
Yeah.
This idea of, like, the conversations I was having with clients were around, well, if we join the country club, we have to give up the yacht club. And, I can't send my kids to hockey and football in the same year because hockey costs $10,000 and football costs $10,000. And then there's private school, and then you have 3 kids, and then you're saving for college. And so the idea of how much is enough as your lifestyle grows and as your lifestyle changes, as you enter a world where other people have found more ways to spend money in big ways, completely changes.
Yeah, and I think this is such a super American thing, is that, I know you, Willie, you're saying like as a New Yorker, but I think like in America in general, we all think that we have the possibility of someone coming after all of that 100 million.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because some people are going to want that. I don't know if it's a media thing, not to be like, oh, the media, but like, where we're always being told that we should be afraid of the stuff that's being taken from us. It might be, the fact that we live in a place with police.
Yeah.
What was it, 2014, 2015, when I think it was the first year where the police, the civil forfeitures, where the police rob you, was more money than non-police than civilian burglaries.
Wow.
So, and...
so people straight up will just take stuff from you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like, too, the fear around this, especially I feel like for people of color, is a different level of it, right? In terms of like what can be taken away from you, and especially for Black Americans.
Well, because it straight up has. I mean, my grandfather was one of many cats in South Carolina. If you read about like the Gullah Geechees, where they used trickery to just get us about the spots.
Right. They just like literally took your stuff. I mean, eminent domain usually happens in Black communities.
Yeah.
Like literally the government taking stuff from you, right?
And paying you a fair price for it. As they say.
A fair price.
But it's a price that they mandate, so.
Yeah, they're not negotiating with you. It's the government. So when it comes to how much is enough, and when it comes to figuring out that number of like, here is like the ultimate maximum safety and security of $100 million versus like, okay, what is the number in between that and...
But even when you have $100 million, people still feel like it's something that they have to gird against. That $100 million becomes their new floor, right? So they're like, I need to keep it. Can we
just like $1 million becomes a floor, and then 10, and then
Well, that's the super...
Let's talk about someone who has $100 million.
So a person who has $100 million is Brett Favre. You may remember him from the film There's Something About Mary.
Yes, that is his claim to fame, everybody.
That's the only thing people would know him for, except for this other thing that he did recently. It's really annoying because this is out of the news cycle and it's now, I guess, old news at this point. You probably heard a little bit about this and then it all went away. But he stole money from publicly available funds that are meant for welfare programs in Mississippi to build a volleyball stadium. It was like $5 million to build a volleyball stadium for his daughter. Which, the first thing you think is like...
It was technically a donation to her university.
Sure, yeah.
But it was a donation. That wasn't his money.
I mean, but that's the thing, is like the donations from rich folks, that's a thing that happens at universities, right?
Yeah.
I think it's USC has a Dr. Dre building.
Yeah, totally.
Because,
that's how you get a building named after you, is you donate a bunch of money and they use it to build a building.
And your kid ends up going to the school, right? That's part of the deal.
Yep.
We get it. There's your good ways to do it, and then there's your Aunt Becky ways to do it. They've got rules and stuff, but like you can just do that, right?
Yeah.
And he didn't do that. He donated and then took money from people who have way less than him.
Yeah, and I think the money was under the guise of being a spokesperson.
No, that was extra money.
Oh, that was extra? Wait, what?
So there was other, it was like several $100,000 that was then paid to him for being a spokesperson, I think to bring awareness to one of their welfare programs. And those speeches didn't even happen. He didn't even actually do the labor. Not that he needed to be paid those huge amounts of money. I mean, he's just I guess he's a comedian, an actor from a famous comedy movie. But, you know, he's a football player. I'm saying, yeah, I don't know what great $100,000 worth speeches he was going to do that were going to bring awareness to these programs. But he didn't even do those things.
No, he didn't. He just took money from people who definitely did not have enough. Because he decided, well, $100 million, I can't pull like $2 to $5 million off of that to build a building for my daughter. So I'll just take it from somewhere else.
Sticky Fingers of the rap group Onyx used to have a phrase. I don't know if you remember this. OPM. It's instead of OPP.
Oh, yeah. Other people's money.
Yeah, other people's money.
Yeah.
And that became, I don't know if it became the mantra, but like that's the way that people with a whole bunch of money do things.
Yeah.
Because one, there's, sure, greed and everything like that, but let's be real. There is a fear. And even someone like Brett Favre, making jokes and stuff about him because he's like a famous cat, but even a famous cat like this has heard the stories of the rich athlete who lost all their money because of bad investments, the rich entertainer who had their money stolen from them by accountants who did nefarious stuff, your Wesley Snipes ending up in jail because he didn't pay taxes and he was such a big star and all that stuff. There's always that thought. Whenever I talk even with relatives about like, we need to worry about social programs for the poor because rich people, they're doing okay, there's always the response of like, well, all that money could be gone in an instant.
Right. And there is that feeling, there is that sense of that. And that's the thing when you live in a country that doesn't have social safety nets, that doesn't have universal health care, that doesn't have like very like robust welfare programs, it doesn't have like a national social security system that is viable and that is off of a living wage, is people feel like they have to hoard.
Yeah,
people feel like they have to take care of themselves.
To give a little bit of empathy to Brett Favre, and what he did is greedy and horrifying and all this stuff, but like I can get how it would come from a weirdly, considering all the power he has, a place of fear.
Yeah.
It's not cool. It's not like don't do that. Don't be doing that. Like man. But it comes from this place of fear. And the real funny thing about this place of fear is it happens the most to the folks who haven't had things taken from them.
Yeah.
You should know this, Brett, as an athlete. The cats who ain't never been hit in the face are the ones who's the most scared to get hit.
Yep. That's me. I've never been hit in the face.
Yeah, she's really good at ducking and dodging.
Exactly, yes.
Very
Maneuvering.
fast.
Yeah.
Yes, maneuvering. Oh, yeah, I'm going to pull this out.
Oh, yeah, that's the other thing, too, is Brett Favre was not painted as the villain of this story.
Well, I was just talking about how the police had been stealing more money than burglars had been stealing money. But that's not what they say, right? They don't say the police steal. They say it's civil asset forfeiture. Again, sports, like you gave up.
Civil asset forfeiture is just stealing,
right?
Legally.
Forfeiture, you gave it up.
Okay.
You didn't have enough players on the field. The words that they use, and I was looking at some recent articles about things that were about people stealing. They say people steal, they rob, they loot, they terrorize, that they are criminals. And when I looked through the articles about Brett, I found zero that said that he stole. I saw misappropriate. Funnel. He funneled the funds.
Wow.
He misspent, misused, a lot of misses. He maneuvered. That's my favorite. Like it was like he juked and like put out the stiff arm, That he was caught in a scandal.
Yeah, not that he was the one who created the scandal, right?
Or was caught red-handed.
Right, exactly. And all the misses is just like, he just made a mistake, right? Oh, it's forgivable.
He threw an interception.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing I think that is so difficult about this question, is that when you do hit that milestone, there's always that feeling that, oh, I hit a milestone, so that means that I could get more. That means that I could get more. And, we were just talking about this with Willie before the show, is getting out of that hustle mindset, especially if you've been in it like your whole career, is really hard no matter what level you hit.
Well, especially because I know, if you're listening to us, you're probably a multimillionaire like most of our audience.
Totally.
But no, for the most part, we have to teach people to raise their floor.
We
have
do.
to teach ourselves to raise our floor. So when you're
Yeah.
in the midst of this, because some of this hustle mode stuff is necessary, and we can't get out of that. So when you begin on that path, how do you train yourself to stop? Again, similar to the athletes, right? You're running around hitting folks. How do you, when you're waiting in line at the grocery store, how do you not just shoulder block the old lady in front of you to get her out the way so you can,
Yeah. How do you pull
yourself
yourself
checkout
away from that? Exactly. So we asked this question. We don't have any answers for you. We have some thoughts. We have some ideas.
We have answers from 100 million.
100 million. Yeah, 100 million. Yes, that's what Americans say. But I think that when it comes to what else is interesting, and the thing that we ask you to do, the thing that I ask us to do is when we do hit those milestones, is to let that settle in before you try and come up with the next one, right? And see what it feels like to be at that plateau at that point. Because a plateau doesn't mean that you're not going to continue moving forward, or that your situation is not going to change, or that your needs are not going to change. A plateau means take a rest. Bask in this milestone and say, hey, I've reached another level of feeling safe and secure. I reached another level of being able to take more time for myself, of being able to give my family different things than before I was able to.
A plateau should not be a negative thing.
Yeah.
It's weird that plateau is kind of a negative. You're like, oh,
Yeah,
I
plateaued, yeah.
I stalled.
Right.
I didn't do more. But taking stock is a really important thing to do. Too many times in my career, I've leveled up, and the immediate point in which I've leveled up, I feel like anybody listening can relate to this, I was shoved into more work, right?
Yeah.
There was no let's sit and look at the big picture of what your life is going to be like now that you're doing this. It's like, no, let's get in this meeting, let's do this other thing, let's knock this thing out, and that's due tomorrow.
Right. Exactly. It's just like that when you show that you're a good worker, you get more work.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so we've done that to ourselves because we haven't figured out how much is enough. And the other thing that I want us to all think about is how much is enough today can be different from how much is enough tomorrow. And so you don't have to pressure yourself to get to $5 million today.
I have, when it comes to the pressure and things like that, I have a little bit of an answer. The big thing about enough is that you can't let someone else define it for you. I think that's the hardest part. We go by the fears, we go by the best practices, we go by the averages, we go by the thing that we've seen that's in the news, and none of those people are us. Just like your fitness, just like your health, just like everything else, you're going to have to decide on that, because if you don't decide on it, it's not going to be real to you. It's going to be abstract math. We need it to be something concrete.
I love it. So, let's go to a song. That was nice. That was nice. And I also want to shout out the owner of Patagonia who figured out how to
yeah. Let me pull back. Talk about that. So yeah, as we were saying, figuring out enough for ourselves.
Oh yeah. So at the same time that this Brett Favre thing came out, the owner of Patagonia decided to literally give away his company. He gave
Patagonia, it's those clothes that people wear when they're hiking. Right?
Yeah, it's that guy.
That's a good way to describe it.
No, that's the gist. And so what he did, and I don't know the details of it, I don't know who he gave away his money to. It was to some foundation, but that's a foundation specifically fighting climate change. But he gave away billions of dollars of his company and said, here, I don't need this money. I have enough. I don't know how much he actually has now, how much is left. But he said, here, I don't need all of this. So go fight climate change.
Yeah, I think one of the good things about it is there's a humility that comes from when you decide on what your enough is, you can also figure out what your stuff is. And I think, coming from Patagonia, what he figured out is, I am not the steward of climate change.
Yeah.
It's something that matters to me, and it matters a lot to me, but I'm going to get my money to take care of myself no matter what. Take care of my family. He's got there's some provisions in there for his kids and stuff like that. And otherwise, the important thing to me is climate change. But I don't know how to fix that. So I'm going to just give this money I have to the folks who can.
Yeah.
And that's some real direction of enough.
I love it.
We're going to go to Los Angeles, California for an artist named Leila Rhodes with a song called Enough. And we'll check you out next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sweet.
Ooh.
Nice.
Oh, wait. Crap. Can I actually do the song thing again?
Yes.
Because there was a cool thing that I forgot to add.
Let me just turn off this.